Welcome to the Mediocre to Magnificent podcast. I'm your co-host, Braxton Matson, and your host, Lee A. Williams, and I just want to say thank you for tuning in because you are what makes this pure magnificence. You are the ripple effect of magnificence, and we are going to bring you a message that will give you insight, inspire you, motivate you, and challenge you to not only grow in your magnificence, but let you know that you are magnificent in everything you do. So stay tuned, you don't want to miss it. Man,
Yes, sir.
we're here.
Man, you know we stay here.
We stay here.
We've been at it for quite some time.
We have, man. We have. And we're kicking off a series too, man.
Yeah, man. I was thinking 3-part series, and I was actually talking to Jamie when this came up, man.
Really?
Yeah. And I knew I had to do a podcast. Like we had to do a podcast.
Yeah.
When I said this. But then through the development of the episode and like looking at it and content, and I'm like,
It's
and
gotta
I
be
told you, I
serious.
said, man, it's a lot, man.
Yeah, when you told me
if we just point blank say this all to them right off the bat, it's a fire hose. And it can be a fire hose. They could pause it and replay it, and they could do that, but I don't want to do them like that. But the 3 parts ends up being, I don't know. Do you think we should tell them the 3 parts?
I personally think we should keep it
keep it under wraps.
Keep it one at a time.
Yeah. So
I feel like.
So the first one, you have to stay tuned for the other.
But stay tuned.
We had it, but because I was going to share the conversation with Jamie, but he'll know and it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, man, in the 3-part series is Tested by God.
Tested by God.
And the context is when sometimes certain things happen, certain things transpire in our life, and we're like,
right. Why? Right. Why did this happen?
Or you could ask, and or you don't know
what is going on. Like sometimes you just don't even.
Yeah, you don't know.
There's points that I've been through where it's like I don't even know what to do. Like for real.
Right. So then, just to help some people, I kind of broke it down into a few, and like really seeing like, okay, well, how does he test? Like if you're tested by God, because sometimes we want to blame other things, other entity, and it's like, no, this might be you're being tested by God.
Right.
So a way he tests a difficult new task.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, okay, well, different new tasks. What are you talking about? I said, okay, well, I got a very specific example of a difficult new task. God called Noah to build the ark when no one on earth had even seen rain.
Yeah, that alone is like what?
So then you want me to do? You have certain things going on in your life, and you're like, man, he's testing me in his life. Okay, man. And this might come later in the series, the other parts, but it's like this isn't a test from God, like a difficult new task. And then then you say, okay, well, the story is there to glean from. But in this instance, the way I'm using the story to glean from is to build an ark when no one has seen rain. Talk about a test. Like, it's like, hey, son, I need you to go build this ark. It's like, for what? It don't even rain.
Like, we ain't had rain. I can't, like, rain? What is rain?
He just was obedient and went and did it.
Exactly.
So that's when he said, okay, difficult new task. So you'd have to say, in your life, in your situation, can you truly label it as, okay, he's testing me and this is a difficult new task. And I know if you say, okay, you went all the way to the Noah example, that's a great example. There's other examples, but faith is facing the future without knowing what that task might be,
right,
and still being willing to do the task. And that's what because he's the thing is with God testing you, he wants you to pass. It's not a like, oh well, and he's gonna orchestrate everything for it to be able to be passed.
Right.
But you have to be the variable in the equation to say, I'm in.
That's true. Yeah, it's like it's almost, it makes me feel like he's a new task, because it's like, hey man, we're not in the comfort zone thing. This isn't the comfort zone.
Yeah, it's not.
Like you're not of the world, like, kind of thing. Right. You know, there's a lot of levels to that, but I can see where the new task, like, because it pushes you out of your comfort zone, man.
Yeah,
it's a new task. You don't know.
New task, man.
But you got to be willing.
I mean, just like with so yeah, you had a birthday party to go to. So with the last mindset call, man, that we did,
yeah,
he's tasked me with doing living according to the word call. A keep it biblical call.
Okay.
So we've been doing a lot of these podcasts and the way they've been going, and it's been affecting people. It's been helping people. I've been hearing the feedback like, oh man, I really appreciate you, how you're showing up and how y'all are doing y'all's thing, and living according to the word is a total thing, and keep it biblical. I like it. So he said, like, you need to do a call. You need to do a Bible study, so to speak, a Bible study. You need to, like, if you're going to be a watchman on the wall, be a watchman on the wall. So is it building the ark? I got a shirt. It says burn the ships.
Burn the ships.
Building arcs.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, okay, Lee, why do you always try to stretch stuff, man? It's perfect.
Yeah.
If I'm able to do a keep it biblical call and help people live according to the word, and by them being exposed to something on that call, they're able to increase their relationship with knowing the word of God and having the seal of God. The same seal. Who you think closed the door of the ark? Who you think opened it?
It wasn't Noah.
That's a seal. You think we're just talking about a call? Okay.
Right.
Well, I'm going to invite you to it. You come find out
right.
what we're talking about. But that's a new task.
Yeah.
That's a new task. And you can say it's difficult. Why would you say it's difficult? It's not.
It's not difficult.
It's not.
The difficulty is saying, hey, yeah, you need to do this and you need to do it. That's it. Get out of the comfort zone. That's the
everything will. And I told my wife, I said, well, I don't need to just wing this.
Right.
Like if you're like, okay, well you've done some calls, and it's like, well, I'll just figure it out on the fly. Like, I don't need to wing this.
No.
This needs to be, I gotta give glory to God, and it's gotta be a certain way. Magnificent looks a certain way.
Yeah.
You think we're talking about, what are we talking about? So then you're like, God tests, being tested by God there's a major change. It could be a major change in your life. And you're like, okay, the biblical example, God told Abraham to go from Ur, that's Ur of the Chaldees, if anybody don't know,
right,
to somewhere new without telling him where.
Right. He just told him to go.
Just go.
Just go.
Like, just go. And we know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's the God we serve. Father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So he went. He went. But faith is following God's leading without knowing where. So you say, like, you tied into the call, you getting ready to do the Bible study, you get ready to help some people, you get ready to expose some things, shine some light on some things. When I was saying, like, oh, I just can't wing this. Like, you don't know where it's going to go, where it's going to take you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sure.
God told you to do it. You going to pass the test?
Right. It's almost like keeping it simple. Like you're trying to control it, and it's like you just need to follow the task at hand. Major change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see where that's a... Because you don't really realize it. Sometimes you don't. When you're following, when you're doing the tasks,
yeah,
a lot of times like that major change, you're not, if you're in tune with it, you're not, it's not like, it's like, oh, I see this major change. It's more about like, once it happens, then you realize like, oh,
right.
That's why.
That's
because you didn't know where it was going.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, we can go back to like, if you say in the grand scheme of this, he's orchestrating this, and I told you that I'm going to leave at this time. You could say career because I was high up. I used to say job, but
yeah,
being smarter now is like, man, you were 12 years in, vested, had a pension, had rank.
You had it.
Yeah, you were, and then to do a major change, and I could say, like, I tie it back now to like, well, I had more to do. So sometimes the major change could be you thinking it's certain stuff and he's moving and shaking. And what if God was testing you in that moment to say, there's no way I get you to the keep it biblical. There's no way I get you to living according to the word in that system.
Right.
We got to have a major change. Now, it might be that it took me some time or I'm a slow learner. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. The process, he was equipping me to this place and this time for a time such as this, but it was a major change.
Right.
To say, hey, I got to take you through some things. I got to, in some instances, I got to humble you.
There's a lot of humbling to it. There
like
is a
pride
lot of
comes before the fall.
It. Yeah.
So you're like, man, I got to get you, come on, man. You're thinking it's you. It's been me. It ain't you. Oh, okay.
It's that control, man. It's that control.
Yeah, man. So another way to test you, man, is a delayed promise.
Yeah.
Abraham based his life on God's promises, not explanations, and his faith grew because of it. Faith is waiting for God's timing without knowing when. You could point blank be like, everybody knows. I mean, I say everybody, but if you don't know, you need to read it. Look it up for yourself. But a lot of people have heard this. Abraham, Sarah, no children. People know.
And then the show, I'm like, so hey, you're gonna have a baby. It's like, are you? Yeah. I'm like,
people laugh. Sarah laugh. Like, I didn't laugh. It's like you did laugh. Guys, you did laugh.
Yeah.
But it said that's the delayed promise. So then, if you say, well, what do you mean by delayed promises? The test is like, how many people, especially if you want to say child birth and child rearing,
yeah,
you think for 1 second you control that? There's no control.
No.
There's a miracle. That's a miracle of God.
Yeah.
So, but the promise part of it is His word. One of the commandments is be fruitful and multiply. So if you're telling me you're going to live according to the word, you're keeping it biblical, you're totally in line, and then knowing that that's a promise because it's commanded for us to do it, and because it hasn't happened yet, you're being tested by God to say, okay, where's your faith now? How do you feel now? How do you show up now?
Yeah.
When we win, we praise Him. When we lose, we praise Him. It's just a delayed promise.
That is so. I love how you put,
but
like,
it's still
the
promise.
faith part. It's like, what are you putting your faith in? And it's just like, it's got to be the promise.
It's got to be the promise.
It has to be the promise. You have to wait. The patience is another thing.
Yeah.
The whole level of patience has to be there.
Yeah, it has to be.
Because it's,
faith is waiting for God's timing without knowing when. It's God's timing.
It's yeah. I mean, yeah, because there's times where it's like you
promise.
You don't know. Like you literally, this is what you feel like you're led to do.
Yeah.
And then it's like, why has it not happened yet?
Yeah.
It's God's timing. But there's so much peace in it when you figure that out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not saying, not take action. Yeah. It's taking the action, but knowing like, God's ultimately in control of this thing, and it's on His time.
It's on His time.
Yeah.
He knows it. He knows how this is going to be. He also tests you by an unsolved problem. You might be experiencing a problem in your finance or your family that seems unsolvable. But as you trust God, even with the unsolvable, your faith will grow.
Yeah.
So it seems like Abraham's kind of highlight this. A lot of stuff is going around Abraham. God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. That's an unsolvable problem, buddy.
Like what? I can't even when I read the story.
I put that there because it's like,
I'm like, man,
you promised me.
You promised me a son.
He finally came,
and now I need to sacrifice my son.
That's a problem. That's a problem. Like that's a big problem. But for Abraham, nope, no problem.
It's not.
And a lot of people think he was young.
No, he wasn't.
It's like 18 or something.
Yeah.
Like he was already a strapping young man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the only reason why I said that is to be able to say he could overtake
He could have overtaken him. Yeah.
So
look at that.
It's a twofold. Because he's asking them as they're walking up, like, hey, where's the sacrifice? And he's like, God will take care of the sacrifice.
Yeah. Man, can you imagine? Can you imagine? But the faith involved in that is like...
Faith is expecting a miracle without knowing how.
Yeah.
That's an unsolvable problem.
We've
got a problem. Like, we're going up this mountain, and you want me to sacrifice my son. And my son's saying, where's the sacrifice? He has a problem, too. It's like, I'm expecting a miracle, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can.
Like, we need a miracle. you know.
But I love this. I love that story, though. Because that is like the whole focal point of just like putting faith in God.
We need a miracle, man.
Yeah. So crucial.
And that's being tested to be like, you know who I am? I didn't do all this for this. I just want to see how you gonna show up. And people don't. I don't think people really truly realize that sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably even do it. Maybe not on to the level. I know I do it. Mm-hmm. Say certain things, ask certain questions, interact a certain way to give a person an opportunity. Like, okay, well, how are they gonna show up? Yeah. But if you're saying God, and we do it just naturally to the little level, you don't think for 1 second He doesn't want to see how you show up?
Right.
Before He's like, okay, I'll make you father of many nations.
Mm-hmm.
Like He said that, but it's like, many nations what? Many pagan nations?
Right.
Or many called out believers, set apart?
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Right.
I can't just willy-nilly like, oh yeah, you're the one. It's like, I gotta make sure you're the one, pal.
I mean, it's like you think of it that way, yeah. That's the thing.
But yeah.
I mean, that's really what it is, and you can't like, yeah. I mean, you got to be tested like that.
You do, man.
And there are a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
because it really does. It's almost like it solidifies, like how your faith, it adds to it. Like it's like it makes the foundation stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger by the testing and the whole, unsolvable problem that you have to put faith in.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way.
He has to be in it. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to do it without that.
Yeah.
And then there's a test with a senseless loss. Sometimes we face a loss in life that makes no sense, man.
Yeah.
Loss of a loved one and loss of a job.
Right.
And you're like, man, what is this about? Why? And it's like, faith is trusting God's purpose without knowing why. It's like, So the thing is with this one, because this one's kind of, it makes me feel tough, even though I can't necessarily, I have a personal sense of toughness with it, but I'm thinking and having empathy for the person that's like, they lost a loved one, and you're like, why? But I believe with the testing, this is where I like to go back to the testing part to really like drive the test part of it home.
Mm-hmm.
Is really to say, do you still seek me?
Yeah.
And are you still going to rock and ride with me?
Right.
Or are you going to allow this circumstance or this situation, not knowing why, to let it be like, I can't believe God let that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And why God? And turn your back on God.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, you can't turn your back.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, there's times in my life where there was a death, and it's like either it felt like, why now, or like it was too soon, or like what was the reason, like why did that have to happen? And I'm telling you, it's a fine line between turning your back and then facing like really deep level like faith stuff, because that's kind of how it happened with our faith, like with me and Candace, because when her dad passed away, that was a huge like, it could be a testament, honestly, in my faith, because there was so much stuff going on at that time, and it was like we had us, like everybody dealing with it. And then it was like you had COVID on top of that.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, we need to seek God. Like that was the biggest thing for us. Because it's like, in this time, it's like, we don't know. Like, we don't know why.
Right.
It happened.
Right.
But it happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, it drew us closer, for sure.
Sometimes, and it'd be like, Lee, man, you always do it, but it's fine. What if Larry was for you and Candace?
Well, that's the thing, yeah.
But not to say God took him for you, but it's like if God knew his soul, was straight and good,
and that's the thing.
But you personally might not have been.
Yeah.
And God was like, well, they need a wake up call, and I'm gonna test them. So either they're gonna be able to be salvaged,
right,
and saved and redeemed, or they're just gonna fall off a deep end.
Right.
But he's good, so he's gonna be.
And
but I think sometimes people put too much emphasis on the world and the death, and we miss the person, and it's a void, and it's like,
it's a void.
They're good,
right?
You need to make sure you're good.
That's a better place. Like, it's a better place. Like,
right?
You're like, what? But
they're resting. They're resting until
there's
the millennium reign, man. You're the one still experiencing suffering and sin and the enemy.
But that's the way. Like, some of it, there's always time for, like, if you mourn, you mourn, in that thing.
Yeah.
You celebrate, and it's.
I had a client that I really had to coach, man. Her mom had a terminal illness, man.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally, and I was strong enough in my walk and my place to tell her this, man. And terminal illness, man, and she was like, I've never prayed so much to God before, and with God, like on that journey, on this process.
Yeah.
And it was basically just re-emphasizing what I said to you.
Right.
What if it's for you?
And that's the thing. Like,
and your mom's going through all this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for you to make sure you seek his face.
Yeah.
And you're asking why. And it was for you. Because you said, this is the closest I've ever been to God. And the most I've ever prayed.
There's a point where the asking the why, I wouldn't say, it's always going to be there, but it's like, it's no longer about the why. Like, it's no longer about the why. It's the relationship with God that's more of a focal point in your life when that stuff happens. But yeah, that's a tough one, man. That is a tough one on the why, like the senseless loss. Ooh,
hey,
those
that's a test, buddy.
That is a hard one.
That's a test.
That's a hard one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man. So the next one is a prolonged pain.
Prolonged pain.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the
Moses, he thought it was better to suffer for the sake of Christ than to own the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking ahead to his great reward. So that basically is what we're talking about. Like,
that kind of trickles into the last one in a way, you know, the senseless loss. It'll bring a prolonged like pain, some kind of pain to it.
And then if you say with the way Moses is like, man, I could do all the things of the world to numb, the pain and chase certain things. Right. It's like, well, and we could say in this instance, I got the house and I got the car. My family takes the vacations and we got all the toys and it's
doing all that stuff.
And it's like, but when were we looking ahead to the greater reward? Mm-hmm. You're just trying to numb pain, and it's not the true pain. It's not
going away.
Yeah, it's not real. It's like you have to do what it takes to see your loved one again. Yeah. In that instance, if we're connected into the senseless loss. Yeah. But it's to say to really suffer for the sake of Christ. But you'd have to break down root words, and like suffer is just to crucify your flesh. Like deny yourself
and
daily.
That is a daily.
So you think like you have to understand what suffer like. Oh well, it should be. It looks a certain way. It's like nah. If from a fleshly standpoint, I'd much rather eat this. Yeah. But from a spiritual man's standpoint, it's like no, they don't.
It's the way you look at it.
What are you talking about?
It really is.
And then you say, okay, well that's a prolonged pain. It's like well, I've lived a life called out on a daily basis. And in such, there might have been some things that I've been exposed to that I wouldn't necessarily been exposed to if I would have just, the word I would like to say is sold out. But faith is persistent through pain without knowing how long. So it's the how long piece, man. It's like, so we've seen with certain people, and whether it be in music or movies or athletes or children, whatever you want to say, it's like, oh man, they've been exposed to something.
You're right.
Their faith is being tested. They know right from wrong. Right. But they're not willing to deny that flesh. That suffering piece. And we're like, but I just wanted to. It's like
it's the flesh, man.
That's no. And you're like, pain is like, well, you didn't have many friends, or you didn't have many people, or you weren't the cool,
whatever,
or you didn't have the latest, greatest. It's like, you weren't called to have the latest, greatest. You're called to have me.
There's the humble part again. To me, I feel like there's a humbleness to that too, where you've got to be able to like realize that and be like, okay, well, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Yeah.
So the reason why I wanted to do this is because sometimes we end up like, those are the main ways that God will test you, tested by God. So you end up thinking you'll put stuff in certain categories, and it's like that's nothing. It don't have nothing to do with God. And that's what we'll go into the next episode. Okay. But really looking at it, seeing how you're being tested, if you're showing up properly, and are you putting your faith in the right place to be able to pass the test. That's what it's all about. Yeah. And
that's kind of where this whole series is going to be focused on, is like just dealing with the certain phases of it.
Certain phases. There's three to it, man. So this is the first one, but yeah, just see how you're showing up. Obviously, we said faith a lot, so some of it is going to be really tied to
Another key thing is the timing part. Like there's a lot of stuff in here where you just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's meant to be. Yeah. That's where the whole faith thing plays a factor. Is like you got to be willing to have that faith and not know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Just be obedient.
Obedient, man.
Stay the course.
You want to go through the list of them again?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
A difficult new task.
Number one.
Major change. A delayed promise. An unsolvable problem. A senseless loss. Prolonged pain. That's how he tests you.
That's how it is, man.
And this is great to say this here. He does not put on more than you can bear.
Exactly.
Or he doesn't. He doesn't, man. He does not put on more than you can bear. That's just it.
That's it, man.
Tested by God.
Tested by God.
I'm striving to pass all my tests.
Got to, man.
Yes, sir.
Got to.
Till next time.
This is your co-host here, Braxton Matson, and Lee and I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope you've enjoyed it just as much as we did making it, but we couldn't do it without you. So please hit that like button, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Let us know what topic or subject that you would like us to talk about in your journey from mediocre to magnificent. But most of all, share it. Be the ripple effect of magnificence and know that you are magnificent in everything you do. Till next time.